Now, community conservation is the involvement of local communities in the management and protection of natural resources and the ecosystem. This can include activities such as conservation planning, resource management, and environmental education. But how do you change people's minds? How do you convince impoverished communities that the preservation, or call it conservation, of wildlife would benefit them more than encroachment or poaching? How do you convince them that they should conserve these wild animals, the same animals that raid their crops or even attack their loved ones? On this second episode of 2023, I'm joined by a guest all the way from the mountain gorilla kingdom of Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. On today's episode, we will shine the light on a successful community-based organization that is perhaps one of the many best-kept secrets in the Ugandan tourism and conservation space. This should be both an inspiring but also an educational episode. It's also my way of spotlighting people and initiatives that are a cause for change in the community. As you probably already know, I have fashioned this platform to, among many other topics, be a voice for the local community, but also an avenue to speak up for our dying species. So once again, on today's episode, we will be chatting about collaborative conservation, basically touching on community and wildlife relations around the UNESCO heritage site that is Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. We will have this and more after the short break. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, a show that is wild, very wild. We try to put out a new episode every Sunday with discussions ranging around how to make the natural world a better place, creating awesome images, telling stories with words, wildlife films and photography, with occasional musings on sound and tech. I do share a lot of my own personal experiences, and from time to time, I'll have one or two guests on the podcast to share some insightful discussions. If you are fascinated about the natural world, especially natural history films and photography, environmental conservation, and African travel at large, this podcast will have you in a spin. So thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy your time here. Alright guys, welcome back to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, where we talk about the earth, images, words, wildlife films and photography, tourism and travel, and occasionally music. As you can possibly already tell, I did pick up a cold during the week, but well, the episode still had to happen. But through it all, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to last week's episode, which was basically us reviewing some of the big stories of 2022. And I'd like to thank my 5 awesome guests that shared their time and experience with the listeners. The metrics really did show that you guys enjoyed that particular episode. And as a result, the podcast topped the list of travel podcasts in Uganda this week. And that was leading great shows like BBC's Crossing Continents podcast. So that's some great news and worth celebrating. We were also in third place for the trending podcasts in Uganda due to several sources on Google. And I also did read that the global internet aggregator FeedSpot still has us ranked in the top 15 Ugandan podcasts for 2023. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I'd like to say that keep streaming, keep rating, keep commenting, keep reviewing, and keep recommending the show. Also, just for your information, I did set up a Patreon account for the show this week. And that's just for people that want to make a monthly pledge to support the busy work that goes into producing this show. If you didn't already know, a lot of the creative work, apart from the client commissioned assignments, a lot of the other creative work that we do is purely funded by personal investments, but also the support of our Patreons. So very soon we'll be creating content that is only available for the Patreons, and also very soon we'll open up the show to a few ad sponsors as well. To subscribe to the show's Patreon, just click on the link in the podcast description and just choose a tier that best represents your interests. But away from the mambo jumbo, I did mention before the break that we have gorillas in our midst on today's episode. Not literally, but quite possibly. Joining me from the edge of Bwindi Impenetrable National Park is an amazing guest. She is the founder of Ride for a Woman, a community enterprise in the village of Buhoma that you'll get to hear more about in a bit. Now, like many people in the tourism space, I had read and also heard about Ride for a Woman so many years back, but I only got to physically visit them, was it last year, while on a client commission project. And I must say, all the positive vibes, all the good things you hear, our meeting did live up to my expectations, and my expectations were surpassed. Ride for a Woman is a force for change for not only the people it directly and indirectly touches, but also the mountain gorillas who live just a short walk away in the impenetrable forest of Bwindi. I'm privileged to speak to the founder today, Evelyn. Evelyn, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Jonathan. I'm very honored to be here.
Yes. Do you mind letting us know what the weather is like down there in Bwindi today?
It's hot. It's shining. It's beautiful.
Oh,
It's been so wet. So yeah.
That's interesting. I thought it would be cold. It's also very hot in Kampala. Eh?
No, today it is. I think the weather is changing. So we're going to go back to our sun again. Okay. Yeah, we have not seen rain now in 3 days. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Now, Evelyn, the last time we were there, the ladies, there's a phrase they told us as we left, and it kind of stuck in my head. I was trying to remember it as I was preparing for the podcast. You can let me know if I got this right or if I messed it. I think they said, "Mwebale kwija twabachira." Is that right?
Yes. Mwebale kwija twabachira.
Yes. What does that mean, and which language is that?
That is Ruchiga. Mwebale is thank you. Twabachira is you're very welcome. Yeah, so like us, the Bachiga and Ride for a Woman. So when we started this NGO, we wanted people to be home away from home. So when you're here, you're home. So Twabachira, it's like we're very, very happy to see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And indeed, when you visit Ride for a Woman, you feel that warmth, you feel the welcome. But before we get well ahead of ourselves, Evelyn, my listeners would definitely, I'm sure, would like to know a bit more about yourself, but also about the life-changing story of Ride for a Woman. So would like to hear the long story of where things began and maybe walk the journey towards where you are today.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm so honored to be on this platform, and thank you for always thinking about us, because the last time I saw you, I think when I saw Brian sent me one of the videos. So I always, sometimes I am overwhelmed to see what is happening, because when I started this organization, I started it because of my mother. I grew up with my mother, 8 children. She used to wear one red dress, and that was even before my dad died. But because of the nature, if you see Bwindi without the gorillas, it's one of the poorest villages. But because of tourism, that is why it has. So she used to wear one red dress, but all she wanted was her children to have the basic or the good thing, which was education. So because I'm the last born, and she wanted me to do tourism, because that is when tourism had started. So I went to Kampala and I did tourism from Makerere University. I have a degree in tourism. So when I finished, one of her things she wanted me to do was to come back home, start an NGO that is going to empower women socially and economically, that will help women not go through what we went through or what she had gone through. And when you finish education, you have so many things. I had a boyfriend. I had seen the city. Bwindi has just improved. We used to travel in a bus from Kampala to Rukunjiri, and then you had to sit on a pickup from Rukunjiri to Butogota. Then we had to walk home. So I was like, why do I need to go home? But everyone kept saying, you need to go home. That time my dad had gone, it was my mom. So she's like, I told her, what am I going to do? I don't have capital to start this. And she went to Dr. Scott, who had started up a hospital And because she gave them land, because one time my brother got sick and we had to walk almost 30 kilometers to find a clinic, not even a hospital.
That's the clinic.
So when my mom heard there was a hospital coming, and the reason why the hospital was going to go somewhere else was because of land, she was willing to give their land so that the hospital could start. So when the hospital started, she went to Dr. Scott. She said, but I have a daughter, and I gave you land, and I want my daughter to have a job. So Dr. Scott kept saying, is your daughter a doctor? She was like, no. We can't employ. She kept bothering him until when they started something, which was Batwa Development Program, where I could actually work, and I went to do that job. So after 3 years, that is when, after I went there and I worked for 2 years, I had saved money to do the bicycles. But she kept reminding me, the reason why you're here is to start a women project. I said, okay, I am working on it, mommy. And I'm like, how do you want me to do it? She was like, you went to school, so what do you think? So that is when I sat down with my husband and we thought about mountain bicycles. So we thought every time we'd ride bicycles, then the money would go towards the woman. We actually, when we got the money, we registered members. We have 300 women registered with this NGO.
Wow.
Who are looking at the widows' HIV, yes, HIV, single mothers, and women who are domestically abused. So the 4 categories of women are the women why we started this. But it didn't work out. When you're starting up something, you're not sure what is going to happen. People to ride the bicycles, because I didn't have the market like I have now. I'm sure many people will be listening this. Maybe that time, if it was there, then maybe people would come and ride. So women kept coming to me and saying, what can we do? What is the next step? I kept telling them, my dream is to have a center where some of us can be doing something, but at the same time cancelled. So just give me time. I am not going to promise you that it is going to start tomorrow, but I am sure it will come one time. So in 2009, when we started that, 2011 is when I met a lady from Australia. She was actually sleeping in Bwindi Lodge, and she was walking around to buy fabrics, African fabrics, that she was taking home because she has seen the beautiful fabric, and she used to quilt. So she tells me about quilting, and that is what I'm telling you. Sometimes we don't have to rush. When something is meant to happen, it will happen. At one time, it will happen. Yeah. We just need to be patient. So what happened is that I was that day, the lady who was saying fabric, she couldn't speak English. And I was there. I could speak English. I was the go-between.
You became the translator.
And I was buying so many fabrics. Yes. And I'm like, okay, so why are you buying so many small pieces? 1 half a yard, 2 yards. Like she was taking very many but small. So I tell her, what are you going to use this for? She's like, I quilt. I said, what is quilting? She tried to explain to me, but Patricia realized I wasn't understanding. She was like, do you have an email? I said, yes, I do. So I gave her the email. But I thought it was the normal thing. You meet someone, they will ask you for your number, you give them, and they never call you back. So, and I'm not this kind of person who will get an email from a client and I write. No, I always give them time to settle, and then if they still interested, they will write to me. So I gave it to her, and actually I didn't even ask her for her email. I didn't. So she went, and after like 3 weeks, this lady Patricia writes back. She's like, oh, hi Eve, I just sent you pictures of the quilts. This is what I do with my group. When I looked at them, I was like, this is beautiful. If we did this year, this would help the women. She's like, are you sure? I said, yeah. We have a group of women. I have been trying to see what I can do to occupy them. These are women who are not educated. These are women who have never worked, but giving them something, giving them hope, meeting together and talk to each other with problems so that something can be solved. She was like, no, I can teach these girls. I can teach these women. Do you have a website? That time we had already set up the website of Bride for a Woman. And then she was like, I want to come in. To be honest with you, she got 2 of her friends. That was Jill and Kim. There were 3, mobilized 5 sewing machines, rotary cutters, scissors and needles, anything that anyone would need to start a quilting group. And they came in. And they wanted 14 women. Now, that was the hardest part. Choosing the 14 out of 300 was tricky.
Yeah.
But what helped me was, these are women. They survive on digging. They survive in going in people's gardens to earn a living. These ladies were giving to give these women just a skill. They were not going to pay them for 3 weeks. So you imagine if your family feeds on you and you're working for 3 weeks,
free labor
and
for
nothing
3 weeks.
you're taking home. Yes. So most people pulled out. But I kept telling them, I said, look, these people are coming to give you a skill that is going to be a lifetime skill. So it's up to you. So the 14 came and we started from there. To be honest with you, life has never been the same.
Wow.
I have seen God do miracles. I have seen people believe in what we are doing. That is how I was able to meet you just from that time.
Yeah.
So from the 14 women, as I speak right now, we have 60 women. The 60 women, if I would say yes, we would be having 100.
Yeah.
The reason why we have put a limit is because of sales and also logistics. We pay these women per day. We feed them and give them a drink.
Wow.
So 60 women, yes. So the 60 women at the end of the month, I need about 7 to 8 million for salaries. That is just salaries with no food. Because the highest takes home 10,000 Ugandan shillings, which is about $3. And then the lowest takes home 6,000, which is $2.
This is a daily.
So at the end of the day, when it's daily income.
Okay.
So what we do, we don't pay these women per day. So we pay them every after 15 days. Reasons why we did this was because so that the money is more when you take it home and it can do something that is physically for you to see or to help your child or pay or buy something that is going to be there for you to see and know, yes, this is out of my sweat. So what we did, we have a committee. We selected a committee of 7 women who come from the 12 villages. So these women, one woman represents 2 villages. So those would have been 12. We added on 1 so that we can cut, the even number. And then we were able to add me and my husband. So we have a committee. We sit down with these women to evaluate even these women. This lady has been here for 2 years. Has there been a change? What record do we have? How was she and how is she now?
Yeah.
If you've not changed, these women discuss and they call you to actually advise you on how and tell them how you use your money. Because what we are doing, we want to impact these women's lives directly and also their families.
Yeah.
So from that time, like I have told you, now we have 60. We have gone on as far as to do other things. One of the things that we do, I've talked about the salary, we do microfinance.
Okay.
Paul Match came in and actually started with 5,000. He wanted us to give the money for free. We did, but it was not still helping.
That's $5,000?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And we were instead encroaching on the principal because we needed the person who used to work in the micro loan needed money. The person who used to go and monitor the women and find out how the business is doing was also, we needed transport. So we ended up, we found ourselves in a year, we had already used 1,000. So we had less by 1,000. So we had 4,000. So he added in 9 and we agreed that we actually charge a percentage, which is 3% reducing. What do I mean by that? When you take $200, okay, let me say you take 600 Ugandan shillings. You say you want to take it for a year. So they will divide it by 12 and then they will know you're supposed to be bringing this. So if they add in interest.
Yeah.
So if you bring out of 600, you bring 100,000, you're left with, let's say 500. The interest paid is only for 500, not 600.
Okay.
So the interest keeps reducing to a point of where you'll find yourself bringing maybe 20,000 as your last month. Yes, instead of bringing constant 3%. No, we said it has to be reducing. We only want these women to pay for the money that they are left with, not the money that they have already brought back to the company.
Wow.
And before COVID, this microfinance was at 86% successful return. People paying the money, others taking it. But because of COVID, most businesses were shut down. And as Bwindi, we depend on tourism. So there was no business, there was no money. So right now we have about 60 women amount of money, Ugandan shillings, 60 million, which is about 20,000 in people.
Yeah.
Which we are trying to find a solution. Recently, one of the donors that had given us money. So every time you come and donate towards the micro loan, the money goes to the micro loan. We had about $35,000. But because of COVID, we are lacking that, and we are sure we'll get it, because one of the solutions that we came up with was to make these people who are afraid to pay the money make a basket, provide labor, and then we can actually use that to pay for the loan.
Okay.
So that other people can actually, because we can sell that, and then the money goes back to the micro loan. So that because most cases we have overwhelming number of applications, which these women sit down to evaluate, to discuss, to advise the people who have applied, so that you actually take the money. Or if we say, we're like, Jonathan, I think we should try Jonathan with 100 instead of 300.
Yeah.
If he does well in the first year, then we can actually give him 300 next year. So that is why it was at 86% successful. So that is one of the programs that we run. We also have education for children. I've realized that if I wasn't educated, I wouldn't be here to help my own community.
That's
so
true.
One of my key things was to help other children go to school. So far we have 125 children that we sponsor with this program of Ride for a Woman. Yes, these are children within this community. Yes, the cost we charge 500 per year. In Uganda, we have 3 terms, whereby every term has different requirements and scholastic materials, especially the books and pens, or sometimes the child has no shoes, or sometimes the shoes have been stolen. Some children need to be put in a boarding school, like those who walk far away. So all those included are put in that. And also the person who works on the micro with the education. We also do what we call the children writing to their own sponsors. Every time we have to write a letter. If the child can't write a letter, we'll actually draw a picture. And if most of them will draw pictures, and then also plus the report, so that we send them to the sponsor, so that the sponsor can know what the children or what this child is doing and how they are progressing. And I'm very happy and pleased with most of our sponsors are always willing and following up their children. Even when they see them declining, you see them asking, what happened? This time she didn't do well. What can we do for her to do better? So those are some of the things that we do with also Ride for Women.
Okay.
We give purified water for drinking. This is open to the whole community. Everyone who comes here can access drinking water. Most of the hotels, and this one, everything I've talked about, you can come and do research about it. Like the local hotels around this area, the local hotels no longer boil water. They all come. So the gate is always open by 6 or 5:30. People start coming in to collect water for drinking.
Wow.
Because we are using biosand. So it takes a while to go in. So you have to fight who comes in first to collect the water. Then you open for the next person also to come and find water for drinking. We have also given goats. Last year, it is one of the projects that we put up. we wanted to give goats as one way as security for some of these families. We realized that sometimes these community members do not save, which is one thing with the micro loan that we are doing. When we pay these women, we open for them accounts. We give them books where you keep also your records. When you withdraw, you have your records so that they can learn how to save. Actually, we have seen some community members who have small businesses in the market saving with us. So which is a good thing that people are now beginning to learn how to save. So we thought, instead of these people selling the little plot, now you're cutting it off to sell. If we give them goats, in 2 years, those goats will be one goat, there will be maybe 5. Then they can actually start selling some of those goats for emergency problems that come in. And we gave 80 families. We only had a challenge with there was a pandemic that passed that was killing most goats. Yeah. But we still have almost our 80% of our goats. So which is good.
Okay, that's good to hear.
We give seeds. When COVID came, so what we used to do is that we used to feed women. We fed over 4,000 families, and I thank all our supporters, our donors.
4,000.
People who had been here were touched. Yes, were touched, and everyone contributed as much as they could so that families would find food, because they knew these women were depending on basically earning from right farmland. Now tourism is shuttered down, but we didn't only look at these women, we looked at so many families that needed help, and that is what we did. And after that, we kept on thinking. We said, we made them, give them food, but we should change. Why don't we give some families seeds so that they can be planting? So I talked to one of the ladies, Cherry, and the family, and right now we sponsor 119 families with seeds. So she buys seeds, and these seeds are given to these women. So we started with our own. That time we had 54. So the 54 had to adopt a family that was not your relative, not your friend. So that at the end of the day, this person, when it's your friend, when you have food, you can give your friend.
You share.
But if someone who you know cannot afford, then that is the person you needed. So that also she can share with her friend. And we have 119 families that we give seeds.
Wow.
Many more things that have come up. We have looked at helping men. We have 70 men that we have tried to add as under Ride for a Woman. It is a new project. I haven't done a lot. Yes. One of the things that I'm looking at is there's a lot of lodges here. So there's a lot of bottles. So I'm trying to see what can I use these bottles to help these men be occupied. Because one of the reasons as Ride for a Woman that we have tried to find out is that most of the domestic abuse is from lack of opportunities. Most of these men are not educated. They have no one who calls them for job apart from digging and carrying heavy roads. So some of them, the only console for them is to go to a bar and drink. And when they come home, when they are drunk, that is where the violence starts from. So we thought by occupying them, actually we told them, those who want to be members, you have to stop drinking, because as we want to develop people who value the money. I am not saying those who drink don't value their money, but you can't be having little and again you're spending it in drinking. Yes, because like recently one guy came because of the sponsorship program and said, if I want you also to sponsor my child. I said, it's good. I am going to help you, but I also want you to help me. Can you start saving at least 50,000 a month with Ride for a Woman? That money that you've been using for drinking, save 50 a month. That means you just make sure you can save 2,000 every day, right?
Yeah.
So that you bring it at Ride for a Woman, and I'll get you a sponsor. And he was like, okay, I don't know. I'm waiting for him to see if he comes with some money to save. But that is the kind of thing we're trying to see. So I'm trying to call upon those who have ideas on cutting bottles or making sharias or making different things. using materials that we have around this area that can occupy the men. If we can have them 4 times in a week, it is good enough for starters. Because
to keep them busy.
One thing that I did, yes, keep them busy. When we started, I started getting them jobs here and there. And you won't believe right now, those men by December had saved 6 million.
Wow.
With the organization. And when they saved this, so we sat down. So what do? They said, we don't have meat at home. I said, okay, so we are buying 1 cow. What else? They were like, maybe we need money to put in an envelope, for Christmas. I said, no, we are not going to do that. Because some of you might give it tea and you go and drink. I said, let's buy plastic chairs. So each man is going home with 2 plastic chairs. So those are some of the things which they never even had in their house. So that you can start developing them. Some of these people that I've seen, because they didn't go to school, so sometimes you have to think for them. And once you give them the ideas, they actually embrace it and they're happy about it. So those are some of the things that we have done as Ride for Women and many more other things. There are people that we have helped outside Ride for Women that I can't talk about, but this has been possible because of tourism, because of conserving these gorillas. Without the tourism in Bwindi, you can't do anything in Bwindi.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And wow, just listening to the story, and why I didn't even want to cut the story short is that I wanted you to give us that long version of where you've come from and where you are now and all the awesome work that you're doing in the community. I know for people that...
At the end, I will actually tell you more. I will tell you more what we want to do. You'll be happy to hear that.
Okay, cool. I know for people that probably had heard of Ride for Women, of course they know that you are very rich in the Lord. I know when I called earlier this morning, you said you had your devotion. You had your time to pray and do that. But I also think majority of people also thought that this lady must be very rich. How is she able to run this amazing project? How is she able to fund it? But from time to time, I did hear that you get support from all across the board. You have people that support you in different ways. Yeah. And I also am very happy to hear about the new ideas that you continue to develop. It seems your head is always boiling with more and more ideas of how
cooking. One of the things that with devotion, the reason why we started it, so me, I'm born again. That one is the fact I can't take it away. And I wanted that so that when I do something, I do it with my whole heart and I am satisfied with what I have done. So I wanted these women because they come here every morning with different challenges. We actually call it shake off. So we are shaking off all our problems and throwing them away. I keep telling them, take them on the gate. If you find at the end of the day, you still need that problem, you can pick them. But if you see you don't need them anymore, please just leave them there. So that is the kind of thing, that is why we do that morning. And also because we're empowering them socially, we wanted some of these women to be bold enough to stand up in a public of 80 workers, because we have 60 women and we have 22 staff workers. That is already 82 workers. So every morning, everyone has to be on that morning shake-off.
Yeah.
So we wanted them, you shake it off and be happy, because we are working as one team. I don't want to ask you for a needle, and then because of the problems you have at home, you're like, no, you need to get your own needle. I don't want to. But once we are all shaken off our problem, then we can be actually working as one team.
You get along properly. Yeah. Now, I know in the story you did mention that the precursor for the project was this your meeting with this Australian lady. That's in 2011.
Yes.
And I'd like to know, what is the tourism experience like? I'd like to now ask about the tourism side of things. What experiences are you offering to visitors? Because I know when we were there last year, we did see some tourists walking.
Oh, thank you very much. So with the tourism, so like you've said, every day we are cooking to find ways to help these women. One, we have accommodation. We have a lodge which was initially for women who are domestically abused, but because this is a small community, everyone knew the services we are doing. And when you're starting up something, also you don't know how it is supposed to be run. I didn't know, like when it's a refugee home, it is supposed to be hidden, secret. So with time, people started coming to look for these women here. That is when we sat down with the donor and we said, you know what, I think we need to change the mode. We need to have it accommodation for tourists, and then 50% of that money can actually go and help women. So these women who are domestically abused will call us. They will tell us where they have gone. We have some homes also, which we allocate these women to that area, and then we help them from there. Some of them have taken microloan to start a new life, or some of them have actually had their children sponsored. So in that kind of form, that is how we have been doing it.
Okay.
And with the accommodation, when you're sleeping here, one thing that I always tell people, this is home away from home. I wanted to run a lodge. When you're in, you don't feel like you're a tourist. I want you to feel like you're at home. I want you to feel like you're part of the whole thing. And to be honest, and I think we have achieved that. Everyone, I always make sure if I'm around, I will go to my clients. That is my passion. I will talk to my clients. I'll make sure to see how they see the place, what they think we can do to help or to make it a better place or to make it a better home, because I don't want it to be a lodge. I want it to be a home where they will be actually feeling at home. And I would say 80% of people who have slept here say, this is perfect. We're already feeling home. Nice. This is perfect. We're already feeling home. This is home. This is home. I had clients from inside, and they just left there. That there were 3 boys from the UK. They told their guide that, you know what, I think, Edmund, we had to go home. If we stayed here, we would even forget our own home, because Evelyn was treating us like her mother. So that is one thing that, we wanted to do. So we do traditional cooking. You can also come and learn how to do traditional cooking. This is from peeling. You shell out the peanut from the shells. You peel matoke, sweet potatoes or cassava. You can steam, you cover, you learn how to cover. We steam our vegetables, which is dodo. But for them, we usually tell them, like the wives, because they would think, what is dodo? So we tell them it's the spinach. But the way they see it covered on top and it is ready to eat, they're like, oh, this is beautiful. We go as far as grinding millet. We have a grinding stone. Wow. So you have to go in the grinding stone, and also, so that whole process is also done. And it is one of the things actually right now that we have clients, and lodges are now beginning to book. People love it. They really, really love it. Or you can learn how to do a Rolex. You go into the kitchen and do with the boys and make a Rolex. Yes, like Natural Habitat usually comes and they will do that with the women. So that is another thing. And then we also have basket weaving, whereby you'll have a teacher. They teach you how to make your own basket, teach you how to make your own coaster. One of the things that I've seen clients so exciting is to see them holding something that they have made with the help of their teachers. Nice. And then lastly is the bicycles. We still have the bicycles. So when you come to Bwindi and you want to ride around the village, yes, all those activities are $25, and we have a guide that takes people with the bicycles around the communities. It usually takes 40 to 1 hour minutes ride, but most people love it. They do.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Evelyn, I'd like to expand this tourism conversation and touch on another subject that is very central to my heart, and that's a discussion around conservation. Obviously, this episode is titled Community and Conservation. And I feel like for me, when I was looking at who to bring on to this particular topic, I didn't think there were so many fitting people that could one, present a very good example, but also speak well on this topic. And that's why I thought you'd be the perfect person to speak about this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Now, Evelyn, I know the organization is just a walk away from the park headquarters at Buhoma.
Yes.
And as someone who is very close to tourism, I know in one way or another you might know that In Uganda's national parks, especially Queen Elizabeth National Park, which is not so far away from where you are, we have this huge challenge of human-wildlife conflict. And for the Uganda Wildlife Authority, that might actually be a bigger problem than things like illegal wildlife trade or even poaching. There's this continuous battle between a community and the wildlife that they protect. Yeah. I know the story of Queen Elizabeth might not be exactly what you have in Bwindi, because Bwindi, I guess, is a more organized and protected product. But I believe there's still a bit of that antagonism between the communities and the wildlife, because wildlife, as they say, has no boundaries. They know no borders. The gorillas, I've seen photos, they end up at the lodges. I want to imagine maybe they do end up in the gardens as well. So I'd like to know, help us paint a picture of what relationship your community, be it the women that you work with at Ride for a Woman, but even within the Buhoma community, what is the relationship between wildlife and the community?
Okay, thank you. One, I'm sorry, and it makes me mad. It makes me cry when I see pictures posted, lions being killed. It takes me back, because one thing is that when communities are developing, I understand some of those things have to be there, because even before Bwindi used to see some of those challenges. But I think community involvement is very important in this whole aspect, because when you look at Bwindi, communities are so much involved in the conservation of this park. Even when the gorillas cross, people will know that if this gorilla dies, my son, who is a porter, who is going to carry a bag and go to the forest with the client to see them, will not earn a living. One who is a ranger will know that if my wife kills this, tomorrow I will have no one to actually guide to see the gorillas. Women who are weaving, they will know if there are no gorillas, like the women at Ride for Woman, they know if there are no gorillas in Bwindi, no tourists will be coming here to see their products. True. So with the Bwindi Park right now, there has been a lot of involvement, community involvement. So more community members have been involved in the park in terms of giving them the opportunity to explore. We have porters. I think we have 100+ porters. So those porters, trust me, if they find a gorilla on the side, they will be the first ones to call the rangers to come and push it back so that it doesn't destroy, because they know they are protecting their own job. The ranger the same way, the women at Ride for Women is the same way, but I'm talking about that, but there are so many other organizations that are there. There is Batwa Development, there is Batwa Empowerment, then small organization. There is CBIC, which is the, those who are using agriculture to empower, the Batwa and the community members. So there is CTPH, which is, gorilla conservation, and they have involved community members to be part of these organizations to conserve. So I think even when we look at Ishasha, there is a group of guides that are starting there something. I have told them I'm ready to go and teach those people. And if it means to talk to community members, I am willing to go and talk to them to save, even if it is saving one lion. So that is one thing that I think that we need to know as Ugandans. When we look at tourism, today we might not be benefiting directly, but tomorrow we might be benefiting directly. How do we do that? One is to know what are we lacking. Is it education? Is it knowledge? Is it power? Is it, because the moment you know what you're lacking as a community member to be part of conservation and you bring it on table, then you'll actually see people coming up to help you conserve that park. Because at the end of the day, if all lions and all animals are not in Ishasha, there is nothing. Those guys will never benefit anything, because there's always revenue sharing, and I'm sure they get that. So it will not come back tomorrow. They will never see that. They will never get that opportunity. So it is something that we need to let community involvement and also awareness. We don't have to promise them heaven and earth. No, even when we started as Right for Women, most of these women never knew that some of these things that they have, that they were going to get them.
Yeah.
Because before, people used to tell them, now you're there, you're working for Evelyn, she's going to be using you, she's going to benefit. But they didn't know how the whole process was going to be working. But these women need to listen to them. Now today, every day, the chairperson, who is the chairperson of the organization, and the committee members are actually suffering. Every day they have over 10 people, 20 people in their homes asking them that we want to be part of the organization. Why? Because they have seen transition from when we started to where we are right now.
Yeah.
So I think it is our goal. It is us, it is me and you, to find a way. And I've been telling people, it's not about money. The problem is that people always want to look at money. Money comes as you go along, but people need to be aware. People need to be told. And sometimes you don't want to blame them. This guy has one goat, which he knew at the end of the term, he will sell it to pay school fees for the children, and the lion has eaten it. And no one is there to talk to them. I don't know if they talk to them or to cancel them down. So I think there has to be a way of us working hand in hand and telling them, look, the more we have this in place, the better for you tomorrow. Yes. So it is to us who already know what it is. Let it be not an individual thing. This is not going to be solved by OA, but it can be solved by me and Jonathan and someone who is on the team, the companies that take tourists to the park. I think we need to have a goal, a meeting, and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. It is out of bond for UA, but we can come in to help UA to conserve the animals in Ishasha.
Indeed. And I did have the communications manager of Uganda Wildlife Authority about 2 months back, and we were talking about conservation and so many things. And indeed, one of the things he did bring up, which you've also brought up, is UA can only do too much. With their revenue sharing, the 20% revenue that they give back to the community can only do too much. But if they use the support from personal initiatives like your own, even the tour operators themselves, if there's a way that they could help give back value, but even just create awareness about the value of these wild places and the wild animals therein, we can all contribute to a big and a greater picture for wildlife, but even the community as well.
At the end of the day, it contributes to all of us.
Yes.
If you're a company, when you do your costume, there is a night in Ishasha or a night in Queen Elizabeth. So, and that is an extra night, that is an extra income coming in. So if there are no animals, then there will be no more Ishasha. So that means also you'll be reducing your income coming in. But if we can work, all the companies come up, with Uganda Tourism Board, with OA, with organizations, trust me, we are willing to work hand in hand with communities so that they can start something to occupy people like what we are doing here. The reason why I have not started it in other parks is because I don't want to carry a lot of burden. Yeah. I need a lot of money to maintain. The moment someone is paid for the work they are doing, especially like, let me say they're in Ishasha, and these women and men are actually working and weaving and sewing, and they are earning from it. And they know the tourists that are passing there are the ones who have paid that, and it was from seeing the lions. Tomorrow, no one will want to touch the lion because they will know it benefits them. True.
Now, Evelyn, let me ask if I could call it, and maybe as we draw to the end of the podcast, let me ask if I could call it a blunt or quite a sensitive question or uncensored question. You can just share maybe lessons that you've learned from operating a successful community-based organization like Ride for a Woman. I personally strongly believe, and we've shared sentiments on the podcast already, that a happy community is what we need for conservation. Without a happy community, it creates a huge danger for the wildlife, and we've seen this all across the African continent. But one thing that I've had, and I continue to read about when I research about community-based organizations, community conservation NGOs, I do read that most of them fail because of the absence of systems and structures, which not only make it very hard to run them, but also quite risky for donors that want to support those particular, call it organizations or community-based organizations, CBOs as we call them. One, would you agree that that could be one of the biggest impediment or rather challenge to successful CBOs? But also, what would you share as quick solutions to solving some of those structure and system related problems that make some of these projects that could have been really impactful for the community but do not set off, they die off.
So thank you very much for that question, Vanasha. I think one of the things is that once you start something for a business, for yourself, is different when you start something. Because most cases people start something for themselves, not for communities. And that is where the problem comes in. And yet they are in the areas of where you're telling people you're helping. If you're helping, help. If you're not helping, then don't tell people you're helping, because there's no sense. So one thing that I've been doing that has made this, because for us as Ride for Women, we are audited and we pay taxes. I have been telling my husband that I actually need to go to, one day I've been praying, one day I hope one day I can meet the president. I want taxes taken away from us. That is my prayer, because the job we are doing, we are creating skills, jobs for these young people and the old people, and we are skilling them. Why should we be paying taxes? Because at the end of the day, we are trying to impact these community members to conserve the gorillas, which gorillas are actually bringing income to the government.
Yes.
But one of the things that people fail to do is once they give you, Jonathan, and this one is what has led this organization, even when people think that every day there's something new coming. If money is for a building, I never channel that money to do something else. Never.
Wow.
That building is put there. If money is for education for a child, that money goes to that child. That is it. It never changes. It is for uniform, I will get the uniform. I made sure I get those, and I even take pictures for the client to see me handing them over to these women. So most people, they will say, we want to do this, but when the money comes, immediately, their own problem is what they go into that. So the money is diverted. So remember the moment, even if it were you imagine you come here and I tell you I have the challenge of power, and then at the end of the day, when I come back, the chair is not there. Nothing is there, because I have worked for an organization as part-time with them, whereby donors used to send money to put toilets, generate. But when the donors came, the pressure that was there, I gave up. That is, I even resigned. I said I can't work with such an organization, because you don't want to be put under that pressure.
Yeah.
I want, if you give me money for a goat, when you come, I can take house to house to the families, and they will testify that I gave them goats. They give you a goat, you asked for $80, and you're going to buy a goat, you buy a goat of 100,000. So, those are some of the things that have made some of these organizations collapse. Nothing else. And that makes even some of the communities cheated, because you're using them and then they're not benefiting.
Yeah. I asked that question because I did also hear it from some tour operator friends as well. There are some projects that they want to support, but there is this whole risky thing of the honesty and also this genuine how genuine the people running them, how genuine are they in like helping these communities. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I think that's a great point to end the podcast on. But just before we end the show, I'd like to rewind back to a discussion on Right for a Woman, and would like to know, the beginning of the year is usually a good time to hear about some new projects, some prospects. What plans do you have? I don't know if you mind sharing some plans that you have for the new year, but also maybe in the coming years as well.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. One, I would want to thank you when you came here, and I want to thank you and thank UWA. Uganda Wildlife Authority has, ever since we started working with them, they have seen what we have done, and I would say maybe they have been our supervisor, because they see, and every time they get a chance to expose us, they always do. And that is where I was talking about. If you have a good relationship with the park, the better you benefit from them. Every time they have something that they think we can do, they actually invite us to do it. And that is also adding to the community. When I started with them, it was because I use my hands. I know how to bake. I started by supplying them things to eat for their breakfast. Ever since then up to now, 12 years, I still do that.
Wow. And
this was just because I never put them under pressure, but at the same time, I never changed the quality. In most cases, people want to do something good today, tomorrow they want to change because they want more profit. The moment you're doing something for profit, then you're killing it. If you're doing it for help. If it is for profit, do it separate from the community part. UWA allows some of the community members that supply us with materials to go to the park and collect it. So how would we be doing these baskets if UWA didn't do that? So these are some of the things that I would want people to understand. But when we come back to Right for Woman, we are very honored, Jonathan. I don't know how to thank you, but I know this is a new year, so we'll pray for you. We'll continue to pray for you and the team and everyone who's listening for more blessings and better, let God answer your needs. But one of our things that we also need, one, we have been thinking we want to get people who can help us. We need to set up online shop so that, because every time people come, they have no space because, our roads are very bad. So people don't want to drive. They fly to Kihihi, Bwindi, and when they come to Right Home, they're like, I'm flying back. My limit is 10, so there is no way I can carry all this. Do you have this on the online? Because many people would want to see this. So I think if we do online shopping, it will increase the number and the amount of money we sell per month, but also it will add the women, because our target, we wanted to have 100 women working at Right for Women. So that is one. Two, we are looking at solar panels. So because we do a sponsorship program, most of these children come from homes that cannot afford power. We have this hydro, but it is on and off. Actually, even us Right for Women right now, we are trying to fundraise for a solar because it is on and off, which is not helping. But the community members cannot afford. But we can afford to fundraise for them small solars of like maybe $150 and above dollars, so that every home has light, especially for the children, so that they're able to read when they are in holidays, to do their homework. You won't believe we were talking about it today. And this morning I talked to a client and he donated one solar for one woman. Wow. So I'm actually, once we go to wire, we'll take pictures and share. So this is what I'm talking about. There's some time when even me, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, what, God, thank you. This is not me. It is you working miracles. Now, the last one that I have been thinking about, me and my husband, and I've been also lucky that I have a very good husband that has been behind my back. He left his village, he came to my village, and I wouldn't have done all this. So there is the part that he's good at, he does it, and the part I am good at, I do it. So recently, one of the things we're talking about was if we had a car, like a coaster that can take 50 people, these community members, the other thing that actually I forgot about the conservation is also letting these people tour other areas to see how things are done in different areas. Women from this area and the men from this area were born here, are married here, they die and they are buried here. So they have never seen. You won't believe we have women who have never been in. They have never been in Kihihi. They don't even know how Kihihi looks like.
What? Just near there?
Yes. Because going and coming back, that is about 30,000. So someone is like, 30,000 to go to Kihihi for what? So our target, we are thinking if we could find this coaster that can take 50 women or 60, then we be giving them holiday time. We do the children because we want our children to be exposed, to love the education, to know that if I am educated, I can change my own village. One of the donors that sponsors 14 children recently was here. And when he came, he wanted to meet all the children. He met child by child. What is your target? What would you want to be? One of the boys said he wants to be a pilot. To be honest with you, I cried because this boy comes from the poorest home, I would call it. They even have no home. But he wants to try. He wants to be in a plane. He wants to fly a plane. I was like, this is dreaming big. And the donor was like, you know what? I would make sure you go there.
Wow.
He has even promised him when he's coming next year, maybe in 2 years. He said when he comes, he wants this boy to fly with them because he usually flies with Eroding. He wants him to fly with him so that he sees what it means to be in a plane, so that he can love his dream.
He can aspire,
so some of these children have given up because they think, you know what, I am going to be educated and come back and be like my brother. He reached S6, but he never went further. So what we want to change is that if we can take our children during holiday time, take them to Queen Elizabeth, they see animals, meet people who are educated, see different buildings, take them to Makshon, go to Kampala, they go to the airport, they meet different officers, and they also share their stories. This will be like, I want to finish. I want to come back and work in a place like this. Because they never see a difference. Yeah. So those are some of the things as we think of this year, 2023, we are praying and we leave it to the Lord. But those are some of the goals that we want to have to achieve. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. And I do hear the ladies drumming in the background. I know, Evelyn, we need to let you go back and do your incredible work.
It's okay.
But
okay.
I really want to.
We usually have.
You were saying you usually have?
We usually have once in a week whereby, I would call it fasting, dedicating your problems to the Lord, and then being cancelled. So like lunchtime, we're supposed to be going for food, but we are not going for food. So it's that more like afternoon fellowship.
Okay.
So it's done once a week. Then once a month, we have where all the 60 women come for counseling lessons.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, Evelyn, this conversation could have gone on and on, but I know you've got to go back. No problem. Yeah, you've got to go back and do the incredible work you do for the women in the Buhoma community. But I'd like, just before you leave, I'd like to roll out, like we always do on the podcast, I'd like to roll out the red carpet for you to just let us know what your parting thoughts are. But also, how can people keep tabs with Ride for Women? Do you have a website? Are you on social media? Do you mind sharing some of those details?
Yes, we have a website. It's www.rideforwoman.org.
Okay.
And we are on Instagram. We are trying to be on Twitter. We are on Facebook, and we have we have emails. We also we are trying to be .com people. So
.com, yes.
With the help of the Jonathans, we hope we'll be there. Yes.
Yes. Well, that's very good to hear. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for talking to me.
And I want to thank you, Jonathan, for this and for this platform. And I want to thank everyone who has been behind our success. To be honest, I had the idea, but I didn't have the funds to do what you see. But I have had people believe in me, and I've been telling people, when I started this organization, I didn't want to feed people to give them the fish. I wanted to teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish, yes.
And these have been different ideas. It is not about money. An organization cannot grow up because of money. There are organizations that had money and they're not there anymore. But all the ideas are always welcome, and we still are called upon you all, tour operators, tour guides, tourists that have come, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Uganda Tourism Board. To be honest with you, everyone has done something that has made a change in this organization. So I want to thank you. And thank you, and thank you.
You're most welcome. And we will definitely be coming back, because when we come, we do see physically and visibly and tangibly the work that is being done on the ground. I think that's what keeps us motivated and encouraged to keep coming back and hearing the stories, supporting in whichever way we are able to. We will, for those listening to the podcast, we'll go ahead and share links to the Ride for Woman website, as well as their contacts for you guys that want to continue to keep tabs with them. But we need to let Evelyn go back and do the awesome work she does for Ride for a Woman.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode as much as I did. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button like we always say, share the link in your circles, and let's get this conversation beyond this platform. For those that just can't get enough of such conversations, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is now available on all major streaming platforms, including Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Pandora, Castbox, Deezer, and several other platforms. As I always say, if you would like to make a contribution to the conversation, or in case you have any question to send through, be sure to leave a comment on the podcast below, or email me directly at contact@jonathanbenaya.com or ahajonathan@pm.me. Both emails will be linked in the podcast description. All right, until next time, happy travels, and I will see you in the next one.
Tala na yo